Welcome back to the Paralegal Business Podcast. Jaclyn Foster here. Today, I get to sit down with Brandy Barnes of Virtu Legal Solutions. She's an amazing example of what happens when your gut is telling you to go into business and you don't take it and you don't take it and you don't take the bait. And then finally, one day, life forces you into it and you, lo and behold, find the success that you were always dreaming of. So I'm really excited for you to listen to this episode today. Really listen all the way through. There's great business insight, both for now as well as scalability as are designing a business to eventually starting one and getting those first few clients through the door. After you listen to this episode, if something is sparked inside of you to start exploring, or you're like, I wonder what type of business I would start if I started one, come join us over in the Paralegals in Business Society. It is $9.99 per month, and one of the most exciting things you get as soon as you sign up is a 21-day paralegal business design plan pathway, where you're going to go on a self-paced, unique journey with workbooks and brainstorming and my guidance on what would be a really great profitable business for you that you not only can succeed financially in, but that you love. If you stay with us, it is cancel anytime, but if you stay with us in the society, you're going to be getting tools every single month to inspire and bring your business to life. You're going to have access to live power hours with me, ask me anything, have direct access to me inside of the community, be amongst other amazing paralegals on a similar path to what you're exploring. It's packed full with goodness and value, and paralegals are loving it. So come join us. All the information is in the description below. Enjoy today's episode with Brandy. Brandy, so much for joining us on the Paralegal Business Podcast. I'm super excited to have you on. I know you, but my audience might not really know your whole story and background. So why don't we start? Just go ahead and tell us, as most of our listenership is paralegals themselves. They love to hear where paralegal entrepreneurs that have found success in business, where they started and what kind of pushed them towards starting their own business. So I'm not saying you have to start from the day you were born, but give us a little background on your paralegal journey and what led you into founding your business.
I would say the start of this actually started probably about 2 years ago now, maybe closer to 18 months ago. But I was sitting at my desk 9 to 5 job after having to drop my kid off at school and him begging me to come on his field trip with him and just completely distraught over it. I had no PTO. Like I didn't have any extra time to take off that I could chaperone this awesome field trip with him. And so he was so upset because it felt like everyone else's parent was there. And I was like, sorry, buddy, like mommy has to work. Like I can't go with you today. And I was just heartbroken. And so I was like, there's gotta be something else. There's got to be another way for me to be able to juggle all of this, still feel fulfilled in my career because I loved what I did, but also be able to be present for my kids the way that they need me to be present. And I just started brainstorming some ideas. I had talked about it with some of my colleagues in the field and friends of mine who are in the field and just throwing ideas. And they were like, it's actually not a bad idea. Like it could work, but it wasn't something that's popular in my area. I didn't know of anyone who did something like this. And so I just started testing some things out, talking with people, Googling, like, how do you start a business? I didn't know any of it. I had no idea. And then I would say probably 6 months after that, I got completely blindsided and was fired from my job. I had told myself, you know what? This is a really good job. I have really good benefits. I have a pension. I got paid time off. I love what I do. Maybe it's not so bad. It's, eventually my kids are going to grow up and they're not going to need me the way they need me right now. I can just kind of suck it up. Everyone has to go through this. This is just how life is. Yeah. And so I was just going to stay in my comfort zone. I was safe. I was comfortable. I liked what I did. I was going to stay there until I live in a at-will state. So I was an at-will employee. And so they didn't have to have a reason. They just decided this was no longer working. And I just one day at the end of the day, I was getting ready to leave and they were like, hey, we got to talk to you. And so I was distraught, obviously. I was completely blindsided, completely didn't expect it at all. And when I asked why, they were basically like, well, you're an at-will employee. I'm not required to give you a reason. So, and that was like what I got. That was all they said to me.
Nice.
I was like,
thanks.
Okay. The shocking thing is that even though I was so upset at the time, the initial feeling I felt in that conversation was relief. I was actually relieved because I kept going back and forth for 6 months about, do I do this? Do I not do this? Should I just stay and suck it up? And my husband was pushing me like, quit your job. And I was too afraid. I was terrified. And so it was so funny because I was obviously distraught. I loved that job and I was completely blindsided. But that initial feeling, even in the middle of that conversation, I was relieved. I was like, I don't have to make this hard choice anymore. They just made it for me. They just pushed me out of my comfort zone. And so I took a month. And what I realized in that month was that I had literally built my entire identity around that position. I'm not even going to call it a career because it was a position. It was a job. I built my whole identity around that. I remember I took a month and a half off, not doing anything, just recouping. And I would run into people and they'd be like, oh, my son had just moved to a new school during this time. So I was meeting all these new people and they're like, oh, well, like, what do you do? And I didn't know what to say to them. I didn't know who I was. And that was eye-opening to me that I had built my entire identity. I made life-altering decisions for my family and my children based around how available I could be for this job, who just one day came in and was like, hey, guess what? It's not really working for us anymore. And so
up and gone. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so I took some time. I did some soul searching. I was like, who am I? Who am I without being, this person at this job, at this desk? Yep. And then I found your roadmap course. And I was like, So I took the free little thing and I was like, let me just see what this is about. This kind of resonates. Let me see. And so I took the free course and I was awakened. I went out to my husband and I was like, I know I just lost my job and I don't have an income right now, but I want to spend money on this course. Right. And he just kind of looked at me crazy for a second. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I was like, she has done everything that I want to do. I said, and she in the, 45-minute free course, yeah. I was like, answered so many questions that I have. I was like, I need to take more of this. And so he was like, all right, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. So I did. I went and signed up for the whole course and I just went for it. I sat in your course. I took everything in. It's funny because I actually took so many notes during your course that I hadn't really looked at since. And I was like, oh, let me just look back at this because that was like over a year ago now.
Yep.
So funny to see like how much in just the year and a half that I've been doing this, how much I've evolved and like really come into tune. 18 months ago, I didn't know who I was without my 9 to 5. I had no identity outside of my 9 to 5. And now here I am with my own company and I know who I am. I know what I want to do. I have found my niche. And it's just crazy to me to look back and where I started and be like, wow, I remember you touching on, you talked so much about finding that ideal client. And like I spent so much time and wrote so many notes on, you call it the North Star client. Who is your North Star? Where do you want to be? And who do you want to work with? And it's crazy because at that time I was like, oh, well, I don't know. I just want to make money. I want to.
Yeah. Anyone, I'll take Cruella DeVille.
I just want to work with whoever's going to pay me what I'm worth. I don't care. But I have over the last year realized that that's not true, because I have had those clients over this past year that ran me to the ground and stressed me out. And I was like, is the money worth this? What I am losing my sanity working with this client. Is this worth it? And I have come out and been like, you know what? I think it's time that we separate ways. We're not aligned where we want to be. The work I'm doing here is not what I'm really interested in. And I've really been able to diagnose and pick apart what it is I'm interested in, what actually excites me, what gets me out of bed every day to sit in this chair behind this computer all day and get excited. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how we have landed, or how I've landed here. And it's just so funny because I'm just in a completely different place than I was last year. And I thought I was doing things last year, and I was literally just treading water.
Right. No, and I totally want to get now merge into what you're doing now, because it's so cool. And spoiler alert for people listening, you started your business, you started to evolve a North Star client, and then you truly actually got deeper into who your North Star client is, because your business, and I know this because I know Brandy, spoiler alert, but because your business, has shown you even deeper who that person is. But I want to just point something out, and I'm always hesitant to talk like this on my podcast and publicly, but you know what? It's my era of being my authentic self too, which has been really fun. This is not a woo-woo thing, but this is something I believe true in my heart. When your son was so devastated, and I don't know why I got teary-eyed listening to that. Maybe it's because I have a 7-year-old son, and their little hearts are so, big, and they want their mom to be there. You put out into the universe an intention and a goal and a dream and a thought of, could this be possible for me? I don't know where I would even begin, but I'm going to start going down that rabbit hole. And your job, and it felt so exciting to a degree of, what if I could make this really happen for me, where I could work from home, chaperone my kids' stuff, never have to miss another event in their life. And your job kept you feeling stuck in the sense of those golden handcuffs. Yeah, it sucks, but it's predictable. Yeah, it sucks, but it's a steady paycheck, until suddenly the universe decided to, this is what we call divine intervention, say, we're going to eliminate the thing that's blocking you from what you truly desire and what you can get in your life. And it's that rip the Band-Aid moment. And I know that that's sometimes so insensitive to say to recognizing people out there that are sole income families, or they're the breadwinner, if you will, in the family. Like, they're the ones that, their income is home relies on their income. I totally understand that is sometimes insensitive to say. It's a blessing in disguise. If I would punch somebody if they told me that, when if I lost my livelihood, right? It's a blessing in disguise. But as I've evolved in business, I've had bad things happen in business, good things happen in business, disappointing things. I've been ripped off. I've been put into really bad situations. I do look back now and say that was divine intervention from the universe to try to push me towards not only what is true to my heart and what is in my soul of what I can create, but also like eliminating, the layers that are preventing me from doing that. So I just had to point that is an actual example in real life of what divine intervention looks like. Because it wasn't that far apart between the seed was planted from your son and you lost your job, correct?
Yeah.
And you should have said, screw you guys. I had to admit, I just devastated my son. Had I known you were going to fire me, I would have called in sick.
Funny, because in that moment, I was so devastated. I was so upset, and I took it so personally. But then I was like, you know what? It had absolutely nothing to do with my work product. I know that for a fact. It wasn't that I was bad at the job. It was, I think, more so that they kind of knew that I had one foot out the door, and they could bring someone else in for several $1,000s less than what I was currently making. And business is business. Like, cut your losses. Like, no harm, no foul. It is what it is. I was devastated in that moment, but looking back, like, no harm, no foul. Like, you did what you had to do.
Yep. I'm going to do what
for
I
what
have. Yeah.
you thought was going to benefit you. And that's like fine. And honestly, I think if I saw my boss out on the street, I would be like, hey, thanks. Like you did me like the biggest favor. That might be condescending. I don't know. But
It's passive
like,
aggressive,
hey,
but
like thank you. Thank
yeah.
you for that because I never would have gotten where I am today had
Right.
you not, hey, go out into the world and see what you can do.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about where you're at today. So you mentioned the North Star client, and that was also a very timely statement you made because I just made a post this morning on LinkedIn. I'm on this I want to get fit again journey. My
Yeah,
holiday 5 turned into holiday 20
yeah, I
kind of
got that.
thing. Lots of extra red wine this winter to deal with negative 60s, wind chills. But anyway, I started walking, and eating healthy. And this last week, right? There's a point to this. This last week, I have been stuck. I had a low and now I'm 5 pounds heavier than that low I hit. And I'm like, why am I stuck? I walked 10 miles yesterday just by taking care of my animals, 18,000 steps. I'm like, why is the scale not going down? And my amazing health training consultant, ChatGPT, talked me, talked me through it. And we looked at, okay, when I had that big drop, it was when I was steady with my body. I was moderate. I was focusing on just keeping the routine up, eating, the carbs, the protein. And this last week, it's almost like I got excited about that big drop and I'm like, I'm going to 10X it. I'm going to 10X my speed. And didn't work. My cortisol spiked. My muscles are hanging on to water. Like I slept like crap last night, all week, all the things. So the point is that with your North Star client, when you said that, you were in that moment of, I'll take anybody and everybody, which I
Uh-huh.
totally get, especially with people in a income crisis where they're like, I need to get money. It's fine. Take whoever you want. But as soon as you possibly can, learning that when you focus too heavily on trying to rush clients in that aren't the right clients, it honestly does the alternate effect. It has the
Uh-huh.
wrong effect. And maybe this parallel isn't coming together like I hoped. You bring them in and then you're distracted from the steady, the moderate, the feels right growth that good client after good client. So this leads me to, I know in your journey, you got there and you let some clients go that were draining your energy, that weren't making you feel progress forward because it was taking away from the right clients that are out there that can't see you because you're draining yourself with these wrong clients. Tell me about after when you got rid of these clients. Now you have even further refined your North Star clients' pain points. And I want you to now talk about your business and what you actually do at Virtu Legal Solutions.
So one of the things I noticed over the past year was a lot of the people who were reaching out to me and asking for help were struggling with discovery responses. And it was one client after next. They just couldn't stay on top of it. And I was like, this is a reoccurring problem. Let me kind of lean into this. Like, why does this keep happening? And so I started to pay attention to my clients that were coming in and they were like, hey, can you help me with discovery? I started as just general support, like
Right.
drafting, doing whatever. They came to me for the general support, but they kept saying, hey, I'm really behind on discovery. Hey, I haven't had a chance to look at this document production. I can't get up with this client and I need, this and this so that I can send discovery before OC files a motion to compel. Everything was just so related around how time consuming and overwhelming and just involved the discovery process is. And they just didn't have, not that they weren't capable of it, they just didn't have the bandwidth. They didn't have the capacity to hold these people's hands and be like, hey, we really got to get this done. I really need you to respond. And so I kind of leaned into that and I was like, how can I streamline this? Because I also don't want to get sucked into this bottleneck of, hey, I'm trying to call you, but you're not responding, or I still need A, B, and C, and your deadline's coming. Like, yeah, sure, I could focus just on this, but how can I streamline this process so that we don't have these issues that like or not that we don't have them because they're always going to exist, but how can we eliminate them as best as possible? And so I just started trying different concepts of creating a process of, hey, this is step one, this is step two, this is step three, and then step four is out the door. And it seemed to be really successful with my one client who just was sending me discovery production after discovery production. And then a month later, I had someone else reach out who was like, I really need help with discovery. My first client had named me their discovery paralegal. Like that was somehow that's how I became their contract paralegal to now I'm their discovery paralegal. And I'm just going to handle all of their discovery because that's what they really needed me for.
Right.
And I had someone else who had seen that post on LinkedIn and they reached out and they were like, hey, I'm really struggling with discovery. Do you think you could help me? And so I implemented the processes that I created for my one client into my other client. And regardless of the fact that they are located on complete opposite sides of the country, one's East Coast, one's West Coast, the process still worked. The whole streamlining of it still worked. And I was like, hey, this seems to be a usable process no matter where they're located. We're not butting up against a deadline and risking a motion to compel. We're actually doing something really good here. And so I just leaned into it and I was like, how can I go through this with a fine tooth comb and try and just anticipate every delay or every issue that might occur and just fix it beforehand.
Right.
And so I knew a while ago that discovery was where I wanted to head to. I knew that in the next couple of months, I wanted to get out of that general support area and move into discovery. And then I also decided to go just a little step further. And since 90% of my career experience is in family law, and I really enjoy family law. There's just something about it. I've done criminal, I've done civil, I've done it all, but family law is really where my passion is. I just really enjoy it. I was like, how about we do this for family law attorneys? Like, let's just lean into everything that brings me excitement and joy and offer an out for all of these attorneys.
Right.
And so we have transitioned from that general support, we do it all, to we now handle and manage all of your family law discovery.
It's truly a groundbreaking service, and the reason I say that is, are there other things out there, maybe AI type softwares to help relieve the burden of discovery a little bit? Maybe just open up that valve just a little bit. Is there different outsourcing? But I think what's so incredible is that it's not just hand us over our discovery, like a bunch of, systems in the background will deal with it. You're a senior paralegal. You're bringing in a team of senior paralegals that have a high level experience in the process. On top of it, you're even refining down even more into family. You're building your founder brand around that. And your ideal North Star client went from attorneys needing help, needing fill-in support, to attorneys having the big glaring bottleneck way down in their cases that happens every single time is discovery. And while both of those North Star clients probably could use support in discovery, you're choosing that North Star client and going after them that feel it so much that it makes them want to puke. And we know that feeling in firms, boxes and boxes of discovery. Your client's not responding back, and 10, 15 cases are behind in that process, and motion to compel. And now your clients are mad because you got to, bill them more hours to respond to that motion and all these things. So really, really great productized service you've created. And for those of you who don't know, she also was able to do it on that flat fee. So it's truly because you have all that data, because you've spent so much time refining your process, which doesn't happen overnight, you've been able to make a flat fee that has very good profit margins for yourself as well as your clients, which is just so cool. So, but you said something really important. You were starting to notice in your clientele that you were attracting, and I think we have control over it, but sometimes we also don't, in the people that we're attracting, or we don't realize how we're attracting certain clients. But you were noticing a pattern, and paired what you really enjoy to do, what your clients are telling you they really need from you, and you're making a whole brand off of it. That's the point in business. And I think that you just have to do it to understand it, that your business will eventually show you how to evolve. And could you agree with this? It's just for
Yeah.
people listening that are like, I kind of want to start a business. I don't know where I'd begin. The Paralegals and Business Society, the first thing I have them go through isn't even about their North Star client. It's what do you like to do? What
Mhm.
are you really good at? Identify common themes, because you said that too. Discovery not only is what your North Star client was telling you they needed support with, but it's something you really enjoy. And now, how does it feel to run your own business knowing those two things are aligning, you know?
It honestly, it feels better than I ever thought it would. I was afraid to niche in such a small area. I was really honing in on a very specific area, especially by saying, oh, like, I kind of just want to do family law, but it's a very particular client that I was trying to reach. And so far, it hasn't let me down. Like, I am, getting the exposure. I now know exactly what audience I'm targeting, where before, when I was more broad and just going everywhere, I didn't really have that, oh, this is exactly where I need to be looking for my audience. This is exactly where I need to go. And now that I've been able to niche in such a specific area, I am able to find more targeted leads. And you can just see that the benefit from that is like tenfold, just knowing exactly. And you don't, like you said, when I started a year, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know who I was outside of that 9 to 5 desk job. I had no idea who I was as a person when I started this business. And
Right.
then I just kind of, what did I have to lose at that point? Just go for it.
Right.
And so I decided that on January 1st of 2025, I was going to file my LLC paperwork with the state, and just, not to copy Nike or anything, but just do it.
Just do it. Right. Just do it. No, that's amazing. And I think too, it's like you said, everybody niching and getting very narrow in who you're serving. That is probably one of the scariest things every paralegal has to wrap their brain around, because when they're first starting out, it's like, I will take a client from anywhere, any demographic, any practice area, if I can support them. Until paralegals actually realize, first of all, if you try to serve everybody, you're going to serve nobody. I think I coined like a very confusing quote that was, you can be somebody to everybody, and you can be everything to somebody, but you cannot be everything to everyone.
Mhm.
I know that's like, how did I even get that out? That's what's hard for them to wrap their brains around, is that by niching, you're actually broadening your reach, because those people out there that you're supposed to be everything to, like exactly what they are looking for, you're the grace sent from the universe to help them through their law firm growth, their struggles. On top of it, when people really break down how many clients it takes to hit their financial goals, it's usually somewhere between 5 and 8. And
Mhm.
you cannot tell me that if there's not 8 people specifically needing this specific
What you're
for, you know? Like, I talked with Heather Gardner. She was a Roadmap alumni. I think she took the program the second time I released it. She scaled to 750,000, and she hit that big hump when she niched. So
Mhm.
she was kind of like, well, I'm kind of going to go for bankruptcy, but I'll accommodate everything else too. And then when it's draining my resources, it's draining my focus, it's draining my time. I'm just going to do bankruptcy. It's a thing I know really well. I know how to talk to really well. Her marketing got clear. She knew what conferences to go to. She knew who to reach out to. And then bam, she
Mhm.
scaled. And she said something really important. She did that 750,000, and she is claiming less than 1% of the bankruptcy attorney market. There is so much money floating around in this world, and so
Yeah.
many people needing things. Like, don't be scared to niche. And it's awesome. So I want to pivot a little bit, just because this is obviously a paralegal business podcast, and the paralegals always love hearing, what it looked like to get those first few clients. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you got those first few clients, where they came from?
So those first few clients, I was just as surprised as anyone that I even got them, because I did not, the entire first year, did not focus at all on marketing or finding leads, like tracking them down. I started posting some things on LinkedIn, which I wasn't even consistent with that because I was literally learning everything. I was learning how to run a business. I was learning how to, find clients. I was learning how to track all these metrics. And when I started, it was just me. So I was also doing all of the work. So I got all of my first clients, and even still today, all of my clients have come from LinkedIn or through word of mouth in my local community.
Yeah.
All of my clients are either people who saw me post something on LinkedIn and decided to message me, or someone in my local community talked to somebody that knew me who said that I had started this and they needed some help. And so they decided to give me a call.
Right.
That is how I got through my entire first year. I am now that I am a little more aligned and a little more clear on the direction that I want things to go, I am now honing in on tracking down leads and really marketing my business and focusing on these are the topics that I want to touch on. And so I'm creating content that, touches on all these topics so that it's going to resonate with the client, with the audience I'm trying to reach. And again, like we mentioned earlier, that niche really lets me hone in on like that targeted content. And so LinkedIn has really been, the best thing for me. And it is much harder to learn than the other social media platforms. I will say that. But if you're consistent and you just post real stuff, the algorithm will work for you. I've had 2 or 3 posts go viral, and I don't know why. I still have not figured it out. I have tried to recreate the viral posts several times and they just don't perform at all. But yet the one that did perform has over 100,000 views. Like I don't know why. There is no rhyme or reason to it. It's just that whatever I happened to post that day was really something somebody was feeling. And so it caused all those impressions and those reactions and, the profile views and all of that. But the only thing that I can say is like the consistency on LinkedIn is what I truly believe has gotten me all of my clients.
Right. Absolutely. Somebody said to me, which was very, very nice. We were talking inside Pibs, just in our little Slack community, and I set her goals and that she was so thankful that I started the Paralegals and Business Society. And I said, yeah, I have really big goals with this. And I said, my goal is 1,500 paralegals by the end of the year be in that society. And she said, that should be absolutely no problem with your following. And she was referring to my LinkedIn following, which is, yeah, it's like 18,500, something like that. I'll get 3 likes on some of my posts. People really need to understand that follower count and engagement doesn't necessarily convert to clients or convert to paying customers. There's a total difference. Some people are just following to follow and they enjoy your content and they like what you talk about, this and that. You have to, through your posts, hopefully weed out those that are reading that aren't just following you. They need your services. So that's just such a big myth, I think, in this space. Obviously, if you're going to be an influencer and you want to work with brands like Stanley Cup or whatever, you need to have a huge, huge, huge audience because they're paying for views. So they're paying to get their product out into the world. But when we're in the service industry, follower count, excuse my language, doesn't mean shit. Like you still have to convert the people in your audience. So yeah, going viral is super fun. But I've had posts go viral that I'm like, oh, I should have gotten like 100 more people into my course funnel, into my sales funnel. No, like it's still very steady. And that is business. And that goes back to my treadmill analogy that didn't quite land. I was trying to land it, but it didn't land. It's the steady pace and the steady rhythm and not trying to constantly go viral or reach this huge audience, but reaching the right people. And like you said, like more on lead generation, identifying who's in your audience, introducing yourself to them, things like that. And that is just kind of cutting your business teeth. Heather put it so perfectly when she said it. I'm like, that truly is what it is, especially in legal. And the reason why, and this is where like a lot of big box companies don't understand when they break into the paralegal services industry and the founders have no legal background, they've never worked with attorneys. It is such a high trust industry. Like
Uh-huh.
we're dealing with people's lives, we're dealing with highly confidential information that could literally break an attorney's whole career based on who they hire. So it's like the reality is how high touch it is. It takes more intentionality to make the warm, not automated, real introduction to the attorney out there. Do it over and over and over again until somebody resonates with it.
I would also say too, sure, you can post, stuff that might resonate with someone, but you also need to connect with your audience. Just posting really isn't enough. You also need to find that audience and go through their posts. And when it resonates with you, interact with it.
Right.
Just because you're out there posting doesn't necessarily mean they're going to see it. But if you're commenting and interacting with the stuff that they're posting that's resonating with you, and you're putting your 2 cents or your expertise, or you're building off of what they're putting out there, their content, that's going to put you directly in their face. And they're going to start, if you keep showing up on these people posts, they're going to be like, who is this? They know what they're talking about. They make some really good points. Who is this? And that's going to lead them to your profile or to your website. And then maybe, it's going to lead them to your Calendly, and you're going to have a meeting with them, and you might sign them as a client. Like, you have to interact with your audience. It's not just, hey, I'm out there, I'm putting myself out there, but you also need to connect with them too.
Oh, absolutely. I fully agree. It's not just post and ghost. That leads to you spend that time, you really build the business through visibility and making sure a lot of attorneys out there are seeing your stuff over and over again, going back to it's a high trust environment. So they're not going to jump into decisions lightly. Don't get me wrong. There are attorneys that won't even read a contract and they'll sign it, but they're not going to jump into these decisions just, oh, a random person, what have you. They need the discovery call. They need the conversation back and forth. They need to feel it out. So all to say, what's really cool about that is if you can get through those phases in the first couple of years, post good articles, good blogs, build that authority, build that visibility, get those first chunks, 5, 10, 15 clients through the door, because we are such a high trust industry, very high chance that you will eventually become a 75 to 90% referral based business, because attorneys, that's the first thing they're going to do when they're looking, not everyone, but a lot of them will reach out to their colleagues and say, hey, do you ever work with a contract paralegal or somebody? I'm looking for a recommendation. We need a little extra help. That's what attorneys do at their bar association meetings, at the actual bar that they meet at after, court. That's how they work. And that's just the industry that we're in. So if you can push through it, and then LinkedIn just becomes like an added source of new clients and new visibility and keeping that momentum going. And then it just snowballs. And then you get those really great referral sources, like, other people in the industry. So it's super awesome that you found so much success with LinkedIn. And I did hear too from a few people now that coach attorneys and consult them. A few of my colleagues have said attorneys are paying attention to what I'm doing in the paralegal space. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but specifically have heard my name, and they're actually expressing fear because they're starting to now see it all on LinkedIn feeds. So what was a theory that paralegals can go start businesses is now becoming a commonality norm. So get out on LinkedIn. Don't be scared to post. And like you said, really true, genuine engagement. So Brandy, it's been so great to have you. What would you say, going back to the paralegal that was trapped in the 9 to 5 that had their kid crying and please come with me? What would you say to a paralegal out there? And this is putting you on the spot. I'm sorry for that, but on the fence and has this really big tug in their heart that something else could be out there for them and is feeling, whether it be financial reasons, freedom, child reasons. A lot of people go into business because their kids, I did, what have you, something is tugging at them and saying, I need to do it, but I'm scared. I'm scared. My 9 to 5 is secure. And I'm putting air quotes for the podcast listeners, secure. What would you say to them if they just need that extra little push to just start and give it a try?
If it's something that you keep going back to, if it's a idea or a thought or just a gut feeling that you have had over and over and over again, that is a sign that you're supposed to do something with that feeling. I wish that I had moved on that feeling so much sooner than when I actually did. But it was something that I kept going back and back and back to for months before I actually moved forward on it. What was holding me up was that it was outside of my comfort zone. It was going to require me to do something that I wasn't an expert at and that I didn't have all of the answers to. And right. I don't usually operate that way, but it doesn't matter. Because as long as you're resourceful and you are confident in your skills, just go do it. If it's something that you keep thinking about, if there is a nagging feeling telling you that there's something else out there and that you want to do this, just go do it. Because it's probably it's not probably, it is your body. It is your gut telling you that this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Love it. And so cool because now we're 3 for 3. The last 3 people I asked that question to, Heather Gardner, she's scaled to 750. Lainey Lyons, she scaled on a 7-figure runway and then sold it. And now you building this incredibly successful and scaling business in the discovery flat fee services have all said the same thing. 1, they wish they had done it sooner. And 2, just do it. Like you have to get out of your own head and just start. I have all these strategies and this and that and these roadmaps and these processes. And yes, that should be your guide to get there. But at the end of the day, there's 2 pieces of business. It's strategy and just do it. Nike should sponsor us. How many times do we say that? And just do it. There's those two components to business, time to strategize and time to just F it and go for it. So I love that. Thank you so much, Brandy. And you're a very good demonstration to how when you just do it, and actually a great demonstration to a chapter in my book where I talk about the golden handcuffs and is your job really secure or could they bring you in the office tomorrow and fire you?
Exactly.
And I do want to make a comment on that and why I don't believe that having a full-time job is secure. I think business ownership is more secure, and here's why. You might have a gut feeling that they might be firing you soon. Every professional does. Like you feel something off, you feel a difference in your volume of work or how they're talking to you. But in business, you have like yellow, orange, red flags that things are starting to slow down and you have time to adjust before you just overnight, hey, 2 weeks, you're done. You're not getting paid anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever you were making to 0. That doesn't happen like that in business. Usually you'll get to your goal and you'll start to see, oh, I'm kind of dipping a couple thousand below. I need to up my client acquisition strategy a little bit, and you get back up and you find a new balance, a new stabilize. So I do need to point that out. Like that is such a good demonstration of your 9 to 5 isn't as secure as you might think.
Yeah.
Especially in at-will states.
I wholeheartedly believe that. I do think that I am more secure in what I'm doing now than I was at my 9 to 5 with my pension and benefits.
Oh, right. And you're not capped. You're not capped in what you can make. It's not the 0.25% of an annual raise. You could literally go from like a lot of paralegals find themselves doing their first year's kind of slow. Their first full year kind of gets them to that 100,000 mark. Then from there, it goes up and up and up. And you could find yourself tripling 8 times my income in 3 years.
In my first year, I brought in more revenue my first year than any salary I ever made at my 9 to 5.
There you go. This conversation probably should have happened in the middle of our conversation, but I'm glad we said that. I'm glad we called that out because it is the truth. And while I'm very, very aware that livelihoods are at stake, and I would never encourage paralegal to just take a whole leap of faith, lose their income overnight, but there is things you can do every day to get yourself closer to being comfortable leaving that full-time job. I have a free training on going from employee to paralegal business owner the safe and steady incremental way, because I know, we all need to put groceries on the table. So
Exactly.
all right. Well, thank you so much, Brandy, for joining us. As you heard Brandy say, she took my roadmap course. She identified a North Star client, and then her business, as it evolved, showed her how to go even deeper into that North Star client. She really leveraged all the resources and the pushing and the tools that I have put into my paralegal community around LinkedIn and networking. In fact, in the Paralegals and Business Society, there is a current mini training on getting those first few clients the scrappy way, if you will, through LinkedIn, direct messaging, how to approach them, the works, amongst other amazing tools, resources, and that 21-day self-paced, unique to you paralegal business design pathway. So come and join us. Everything is in the description below. And until next episode, have great days ahead of you.